Hello everybody, and welcome to a video about my predictions for the final two DLC fighters in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle R. I always feel weird about saying the R at the end, it sounds weird, but this is the first kind of commentary video I've done before, so please let me know what you guys think of it, and if you enjoy it then consider liking and subscribing. Also, this video was originally meant to be the final three fighters, however when I was recording this video the announcement for Abakio released, so I was like, do I just cut what I've done so far? Because I mean I hadn't done much, so you know I decided, oh, I'll just do the final two fighters. It's not like anyone really cares about hearing for a fighter that's already released, sort of thing, you know what I mean? So I'm only going to be going on about the final two fighters, which are a part 4 and part 8 character. We're not doing part 5 because obviously it's Abakio. Anyway, let's get into the first fighter, which is from part 4, Diamond is Unbreakable. So I've heard a few different characters being picked for predictions for part 4, like Yuya and other minor characters. However, I believe we'll be getting Mikitaka. He's also my hope for what we're getting. So yeah, Mikitaka, I think he is going to be our next fight because his moveset could be insanely original and like really unique compared to other characters. Since most characters in this game, they use a stand. Usually the stand is very human shaped, you know. We'll get an odd occasion where the stand is a gun, like whole horse, or something else that isn't really humanoid shape, but even still, when it boils down to being something like a creature, like even like Tusk, you know, it doesn't look like a human, but it still has those human shape qualities, you know, it punches and stuff like that. Mikitaka doesn't have that. We don't even know if he has a stand, you know. I'm saying he has a stand, but like with very big quotation marks, because you know it's a huge debate. I'm not going to go into it whether he's an alien or not, whether his stand is a stand or if he's just an alien with those shape-shifting abilities. But either way, whether it's a stand or not, I think his moveset could be really cool. I think there's a lot to take from, you know. He can kind of like, he has those scenes where he like unravels himself, kind of. I think that's the best way to describe it. Not unravel themselves like how Jolene or other characters just stands like that do. I mean, there's a picture on screen, you can see it. If you've seen Mikitaka, you know what I'm saying. But yeah, he's like, he's weirdly unique, and we don't get many characters who actually use their body to fight. Obviously there's a few of them, but Mikitaka would be something else, you know. He'd be like just throwing himself all over the place. He'd be turning into loads of different stuff. I mean, he's got a few transformations, but he never really uses many of them to actually fight. However, a few of them could be turned into moves. Like, there's a quick scene where he's like, oh, or I could turn into a back scratcher to scratch your back, and his head's just like a massive back scratcher, and like that could be used as a move set, you know. He could just turn his head into a back scratcher and like whack someone or something, because it's not like he's a tiny back scratcher, he's like a big one, so he could easily just hit someone over the head with it. I think that'd be pretty funny. Or even he could just turn himself into the die. You know, there's the scene where he's obviously the little die, where he's actually being used as one, but then before he knows how big they are, he turns himself into just a huge die. So he could just, I don't know, he could turn into one of those, roll around the stage. Who knows, they could bring up some gimmick to whichever number he lands on does an effect or something. You know, if you get a 6, it does loads of damage. If you get a 1, it does a bit. I'm not too familiar on how much RNG is in the game already, but if that's something they want to do, they could come up with a gimmick like that. But I think his main transformation abilities will be where he transforms into like wires and stuff, you know, during the Superfly fight, he is zooming all over the place on the tower, and disguising himself as the wire. I don't know how that would work in battle, but maybe he could like shoot himself out and grab people as a wire. But he could even just use like his little blue tentacle thingies to grab people. It is a shame we didn't get to see more transformations from him, but you know, I think they could make it work. I think they could try and come up with something to do with the whole he doesn't like loud sounds. I don't know what they could do, but you know, when he gets into that state, he's kind of like losing himself a bit, and he's kind of going all over the place. Maybe there could be a ability where he's reacting to that sound. So like there's a loud sound and he's just hitting all over the place. It's just like loads of hitboxes and stuff. I think that's a bit of a stretch, but you know, I kind of want to see that side of him implemented some way into the game. Maybe that could even be his GHA attack. So you see like a bunch of like fire trucks go past in a cutscene, and then he's just like, oh my god, it's so loud. And then he's just kind of like, the cutscene is just him with his tentacles going all over the place, hitting everyone. That's what I think could be used to one of those attacks. The thing is, he is not a main character, so he falls under the category where he doesn't have much to take from. But we just got a Bacchio, and a lot of people were debating, oh, how's he going to be put into the game? He doesn't fight that much, but you know, they put him in the game, and from his screenshots that we got, we actually can see that part of his GHA attack, Mista and Narantia are there, so that makes me think his cutscene is going to be the kicking one, where they're just all kicking that one guy, which is really funny, to be fair, because we're having other characters in the cutscene, which I don't believe has happened. It might have, but not often. So we could have like Mista versus a Bacchio, and then another Mista pulls up and just starts kicking himself. Like, that would be funny that would be so funny. But yeah, back to Mikitaka. He's one of those characters where they start taking like very obscure details and turning them to part of his character. For example, in JoJo's party, Josuke, when you walk backwards in the game, he kind of does this, like, it looks weird in game, but the references to when he's waking up, which is very obscure, but at the time Josuke was a new character when this game came out. The first All-Star Battle, not the remaster, but they didn't decide to update his character at all, so he's still stuck in like early JoJo'lian moveset, you know, where he just throws balls all over the place. He doesn't have like his late moveset, which they had to pull a lot of like minor details about him from. Like, one of his attacks is literally him shaving. But I think they can make Mikitaka work. You know, if people say they can make Yuya work instead of Mikitaka, then I don't know. All I can think of Yuya is the feet. You know, I don't remember much else that he can do. So I think that would be even harder to make a moveset for rather than Mikitaka, because Mikitaka has insane potential. You know, transforming into different objects, and like maybe you can have different forms, but to the point where you can only stay in them for like a few seconds or a bit longer, because he does say like he can only hold a certain transformation for a certain amount of time, and I'm guessing the bigger the thing, the harder it is to keep. Outside of moveset, I want to mention a few more things. We have the winning taunts and stuff like that, or just mid-battle taunts. I think some of his victory poses could be one where he's like got some ice cream. I don't know, that was a funny scene, I kind of like that. Or maybe the scene where he's just eating tissues. I think that needs to be in the game somewhere, because that would be amazing, you know. But I think Mikitaka needs to be in the game. We don't have a 3D model for him, and that feels weird because he does feel like a big character in Diamonds Unbreakable. It is between Mikitaka and Yuya. I don't think there's anyone else who can really get into the game other than those two. Now, about 3D models, I think that means it's a good time to move on to the JoJolian character, because most of the characters in this part don't have 3D models. Some of them do, and I'm going to be talking about some of those characters and if they do or not, but most of the picks don't. And if they do have a 3D model, it's not like a good one, it's like what you see in the background, which is kind of low quality. But we're going to get started with our first JoJolian pick, because I've got a few of these that I want to talk about, so just strap in. You know, if you know me, you know I'm a JoJolian fan. I love the part, so I have a lot to say. First of all, we're going to talk about Toru, the main villain of JoJolian. You know, I think he deserves to be in. I'm going to go on about why he deserves to, because I feel like before we even talk about movesets, I want to talk about why the character deserves to be in. And I think Toru deserves to be in because he has like no content towards him. He has no voice actor, no 3D model, no like colour scheme like that is consistent or official. You know, we have the purple and yellow, but that's not really done by Araki. So, and a lot of people think that one's ugly, and we don't have a consistent design for him. Whenever Araki would draw Toru, he would like change something about him. You know, Toru had an afro when he first met him, and then the afro kind of turned into just, you know, to something that, to the point where people thought it was a hat, and it's like, I mean, it's clearly an afro, but I don't know why Araki did that, but, you know. And the swirly thing on his chest, it kept mirroring itself, which was really weird. I don't know why Araki did that either. And then another thing is, when we first met Toru, he had like the letters S, F, C on his crotch. I don't even know what that stands for, like why it's there, but it wasn't there later on. So, but yeah, Toru, he's a bit of a mess of a character. That doesn't mean I don't think he's written right or anything. I think he's good, but his design, it needs like a cemented like design. So, you know, when you see people doing fan art, it's like everyone draws him differently because there's no like real right way to draw him, because Araki just never had like a simple design for him. He kept changing it every panel he was in. He doesn't have any content. He doesn't have a 3D model. When you see all these like main JoJo characters and they all have 3D models, while Toru's just left in the dust. And another thing Toru's left out of is the main villain stuff. I see all these posts online and it's like, which is your favourite main villain from JoJo? And it'll be like Dio, Kaz, Kira, and then it'll go up to Funny Valentine, you know, going through them all, and it's like, there's no Toru, and it's like, oh, okay. Either they didn't read JoJolian, or Toru just is that irrelevant, you know, and it makes me sad because I think he's alright, you know. Say what you want about him, he deserves to be in there. I don't think, you know, if Diavolo deserves to be there, so does Toru. Like, I don't really like Diavolo, but he's the main villain. And I just think it would be cool to have all the main villains alongside each other. You know, we have all the JoJo's, apart from JoJo, but shut up. We have all the JoJo's, but we don't have all the villains, and like, it feels incomplete without Toru. I think he'd fit in. We need him in the game. But I think his moveset, like, a lot of people want to say his moveset wouldn't work, and that's another thing where I'm like, you look at some of the characters in this game, and if you were to like think how they would work in game, you would be like, oh, well, I'm surprised they got in the first place. I remember wanting Foo Fighters in the game, and I was kind of like, oh, I don't know how they'd work, but obviously they'd work, you know, and they work pretty well. And now that we have Abakio, you know, that's another character who I personally thought would be difficult to put in because he doesn't do too much fighting. obviously he does fight, but you know, there's not much to take from in his department. But Toru would be very unique as a character because we don't see him really fight much on his own. However, that's where Wonder of You comes in. I think it could be really unique where Wonder of You takes kind of like the main stage. It'd be really cool to have a gimmick to do with Calamity, and obviously if you want to pursue Toru, you know, you get hurt. Obviously, oh well, Toru's OP, you know, they can't be in the game. Well, we have Made in Heaven, we have Golden Experience Requiem, you know. It's a game. Obviously they're not going to be overpowered. Like there's that one clip of Jonathan fist fighting Tusk 4, and it's like, oh yeah, that would definitely happen in canon. Oh, but no, Toru can't be in the game because Toru's too OP. Yeah, here's Jonathan fighting Tusk 4. So yeah, obviously Toru wouldn't be as strong as he is in the manga. He'd be a bit toned down, but I think a lot of his moveset would be just, you know, random stuff hitting the opponent, which would be really unique. You know, you could be like running towards Toru and then you have a bit of a plane fall on you. I think it'd be cool. It'd be really unique. You know, we had Mikitaka, who I also said was unique. So why not get Toru in here, who's also unique? I want to say for one of his GHA attacks, you know the scene outside the Higashikata house where like he bites the fruit and then runs towards Yasso, trying to equivalent exchange with her in some way. You know, really off-putting scene, to be fair. You know, bit scary. Makes Toru seem really creepy, which personally I love. I love the idea of him being like a creepy villain, but I think they could maybe make that one of his GHA attacks. Not one of his, but obviously they only get one, but you know what I mean. It could be one of the attacks where he just runs towards the opponent, tries to equivalent exchange with them. I don't know what the results would be. Obviously I'm not expecting them to make fusions of Toru in every character like they did Josumi and Kira, but maybe like he grabs them, fuses with them a bit, and then they just both, or then they just get a lot of damage taken off and they're back to normal, because obviously like it's a game. But I think there's a lot to take from Toru. He could even be like, you know, like Pesky and his brother. I can't remember the name. Don't hate me. I'm not a huge Part 5 fan, but they're like a duo character. You could kind of have the same with Toru in Wonder of You. Like, obviously every character has their stand. You know, you got Jotaro summoning Star Platinum, but maybe like Toru summons Wonder of You and you actually get to control Wonder of You. So when you summon Wonder of You, Toru kind of just walks behind him and you're walking around as Wonder of You, doing, you know, Wonder of You stuff, just being stylish. Obviously, you know, attacking people. But for emotes and taunts and victory poses, I think Toru has a lot to take from as well. He has the scene where he's eating the burger, which iconic. He has a few poses in there as well. Right, he has one where he puts his hand on his head, something like that. And then, obviously, this will be in the game if it happens. If Toru's in, so will the Elvis scene. Obviously, they won't use the actual song, but Toru will pull out his phone and he'll just start dancing. Maybe that's his his GHA attack, where he pulls out his phone and you just see the opponent like getting crushed to death in the background. He's just dancing, you know, like how it happens in JoJo's. That would be perfect. Toru doesn't have a voice, you know, so they'd need to find a voice actor, which obviously they did for every other character in All-Star Battle. No, just normal All-Star Battle, until I don't know what if the anime was out during All-Star Battle. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it was actually, but either way, they had to find voice actors for a lot of characters, so I don't see this as an issue. You know, they can easily find new voice actors, and it's only one character at the end of the day. Basically, anyone from JoJo will need a new voice actor. There's like a few that won't, but you know, I'll get into those. Anyway, I could go on about Toru for ages, so let's move on because I've got a lot of JoJo to talk about. So, other than Toru, I think it's going to be Jobin. Jobin is considered to be, you know, kind of like the secondary villain. Some people even consider him the main villain, but, you know, Araki doesn't, so we go by what Araki says. But Jobin was a big antagonist. I wouldn't say he's a villain, he's more just of an opponent for Josuke. But he's certainly a big part of JoJo, and I would be happy if he got in. We do already have a 3D model for Jobin. It's not an amazing one because it was in the background of Eyes of Heaven. He was like sat in the house with Hato and Daya. But Jobin didn't get any voice lines, which was weird. Because a bunch of characters did. You know, they have in the games, they just have voice lines for characters who don't even appear, like, but they're just saying like random dialogue from the manga. Like Daya got voice lines. Hato didn't. Norisuke did. Yasso did. You know, but Jobin didn't. But Jobin wasn't around in the original All-Star Battle. I don't think he was actually introduced into the story. He was known about. Like they were like, oh yeah, my oldest son. But we didn't. I don't think we met him until later on when Eyes of Heaven was made. So yeah, but Jobin could work. Just like mostly any other character. He has one of those humanoid stands, but which is Speed King. Kind of a easy to understand concept with heat and stuff. So I think he could work. Maybe he could even have Tsurugi be part of his moveset. That would be kind of cool. You know how like Kira has Hayato at some point, but like that's for a cutscene. Maybe Tsurugi could do something. I think if Jobin's going to be a character, Tsurugi should have something to do with it as well. I think that needs to be a thing. Plus it means we get more JoJo known characters in All-Star Battle a lot. But Jobin I'd be happy with. He didn't have a voice actor either, so just like Toru, they'd need to get another one. He already has a model that they can go from, but they would need to make a new one because obviously he's a main fighter, so he would need a bit more of a higher poly model rather than the background one. Now these next few characters I won't talk too much about because I don't want to go on for ages, but I'll bring up Yasso right now because I didn't think about Yasso before because I was like, oh well, she doesn't do too much fighting. Like her stand isn't really a fighting kind of stand, you know. But Yasuo, before I was kind of like, I don't see it happening. But then we get a Bakio and I was kind of like, oh, if they can make a Bakio work, maybe they can make Yasuo work. She could have like, even if she's not using her stand, she still has plenty of attacks to take from. Like she has the metal pole that she used in the Blue Hawaii fight. That would be funny to see happen. Just Yasso just brings out a massive pole and just whacks them on the head. But she's a strong character, and I think people underestimate that. Like there's literally a point where she loses her whole arm, and it's like, you know, she's clearly strong enough to carry on because she's just crawling around. She's literally drowning as well. Like, if anyone thinks Yasso isn't strong, then like, come on. Like, she can fend for herself, you know. There's plenty of scenes where she attacked Joshu for being a creep, being a weirdo. He didn't belong here. What is he doing here? But I'd love to see Yasso in the game. She already is in the game as like a stage hazard kind of thing, so maybe it won't happen. But once again, it's a game, you know, we have Mista potentially beating up Mista, so Mista and Narantia beating up themselves, so but it'd be great to see her alongside Josuke, you know. As much as I want to see the JoJo and the villain next to each other, I'd love to see Josuke and Yasso together in game. It'd be cute, but then again, it means they'd have to fight, and it's like, oh, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. That would never happen. Not my JoJolian. And going from one JoBro to another, we'll talk about Ray quickly. I think he has potential. However, I don't think he has as much of a bigger impact as the other characters I've mentioned so far. Like, he is a big part of the story, but not till later on. And, you know, I think Ray should definitely be in one day if they were adding more JoJo characters, but I don't think he should be the next rep, if you go what I mean. You know, he isn't the main villain, he isn't a side villain, he isn't a JoBro. But I definitely think he needs to be in one day because he's a big character and he's a great character. And once again, he suffers from the same curse as Toru. No model, no... I think he might have an official colour scheme, to be fair. He has a better, more consistent colour scheme than Toru and design. But I remember when he first appeared, he looked like very different, but he kind of had his ground. And this next character is highly unlikely unless the devs really want to get lazy, but they could make Part 8 Kira into the game. Like, I think he'd work similar to Yoshikage Kira from Part 4, but he'd look obviously similar to Josuke, so I kind of don't want it to happen because it's, you know, they already look similar. I kind of want other characters over him. I love Kira, but if this is the only JoJolian rep we're getting, I don't want two characters who just look pretty much the same, you know, and a character who has the same stand and pretty much same abilities as another character. So don't even get me started when they added Alternate Will Diego as the final DLC. That was an awful pick, but you know, we'll move on from that. And the final character I'm going to talk about is the one and only Joshu. Now, a lot of people talked about Joshu, and for good reason, because Joshu was in Eyes of Heaven. Therefore, like many other characters who were added to this game, he already had a model, he already had a moveset, he already had a voice actor. He has everything ready for him. If the devs are lazy, they can add Joshu. And it wouldn't cost them much, you know. It'd be a smart financial decision, you know. There's a surprisingly amount of Joshu fans, so there'd be people who buy him, there'd be people who already bought the season pass and just have to have him in their inventory. But Joshu is already in Eyes of Heaven. They did this for a lot of characters. They did it with, you know, Alternate Will Diego. They did it with Stroheim, and a bunch of other characters who added in the main All-Star Battle roster, like Pet Shop, Maria. I can't remember who else was added, but there was a few of them. I think Diego was added. I don't think Diego wasn't originally in All-Star Battle, so yeah, he came from Eyes of Heaven too. Same with Yukiko, Part 4 Jotaro, you know. I don't think it's necessarily lazy, I just think it's a bit underwhelming when they take up DLC slots with characters like Alternate Will Diego and Stroheim, who were already in Eyes of Heaven. It's just, you know, a bit lazy. But Joshu, a lot of people are saying it will be Joshu because of this reason, and I don't fully think it will be. I think it's likely, but I don't know. We have Joshu as a stage hazard, and like Yasuo, the models look very different compared to each other. Like, you know, looking on screen right now, the Joshu model in All-Star Battle looks different from Eyes of Heaven. So, you know, and I think the devs know now, since this game is more targeted at the West rather than the first 2 games being mostly Japan, because you know there wasn't many JoJo fans anywhere else other than Japan before. But now this game is like, you know, heavily targeted towards other places, and they know people don't like Joshu over here as much as they do in Japan. And they know a lot of people would be upset by Joshu. So making that decision to add him would be a bit bad of them. Like, personally, I'm gonna say I don't care. If Joshu wasn't in Eyes of Heaven, I wouldn't mind him being in the game because he'd be a new character. But because he was in Eyes of Heaven, that is why I don't want him in the game. Not because he's a creep, he's a weirdo. What the hell is he doing here? He doesn't belong here. I already made that reference, but you know, I did it right that time. But you know, that's why I don't want him in the game, because it would be taking up a slot from a character who has nothing for a character who has already the model, the voice actor, the colours, you know. That's why I don't want Joshu in the game, because it would be lazy of them just to port him over. But I don't think it's gonna be him. If it is, I'll be upset, but like, I won't be as upset as everyone else, because at least we're getting a JoJolian rep, you know. Just of course it has to be Joshu. I don't think it is going to be Joshu though, like I said. Hopefully I don't come back and watch this video and I'm like screaming at my screen like, where did you go wrong? Why would you say this? But I can't see it being Joshu at the minute. You know, he's already the game as a stage hazard, which doesn't stop him being added. I just want to say I'm not proving myself wrong, but it gives them less reason to add him. He's already in the game, so don't add him again, guys. But they're my predictions. So what about your guys' predictions? I asked my Twitter what they think who will be added. So we're going to look at a few people and what they said. Alright, so here we go. We've got my tweet here. That's like, you know, what are you guys' predictions? So let's just have a look through some of these. So we have Primal Turtwig here, member of my Discord, so I know you, dude. So he said part 5 of Abakio. This tweet was before Abakio got announced, so you know, that's one done. Part 4, Angelo / Yuya. Angelo, I didn't even think about that. That'd be interesting. I don't think that will happen. I wouldn't like that to happen, but you know. Part 8, Toru / Jobin. Joshu would be so funny. Joshu would be funny. It would be funny to see people's reactions, but at the same time, I don't want it to happen. But you know, this is kind of what I said. Toru / Jobin. We got Kaiser here. We got Coco Jumbo. We also got the Rat. Bugs Eaton, isn't it? And we got the Bling Baby, which honestly, this roster, like, bro, you know, what are they doing wrong to not have this in the game? Imagine these in the game. You know, this is the dream blunt rotation right here. Here we go. We got Yuya, Doppio. Ooh. That I'd like that, but I don't see it happening since Doppio was kind of already a part of Diavolo's like intro cutscene. But I love Doppio, so that'd be cool. And Jobin, so yeah. Abakio, so there you go. Yuya and Kira or Ray, which, you know, are the ones I said. Joshu, fair enough. But Raven here, we've got Abakio, Mikitaka, and Yotsuyu. I didn't speak about Yotsuyu, but yeah, I've seen a lot of people speak about him, and that, I mean, I would be happy with him, but I don't see it happening over other characters. But I would like that to happen. I wouldn't mind it. He already has the voice lines, you know, I am a rock. So it could work. Next we have this this is a big one. We got Abakio, Yuya, and Toru. I'm confident at least 2 of these will be right. Well, you got 1. If they don't give us Abakio, that'd be silly. By far the best character. He's highly requested. Here we go. We got Abakio, Mikitaka, and Jobin, and they actually. Oh, okay. We got Saru. Yes, this person's big brain. They're talking about They're talking about Jobin's moveset having Sarugi a part of it, which is also what I said. Which, if they add Jobin, they have to do this. I mean, come on. I think it was Skate for JoJo, of course. You know, I mean, Kaiser. We need to complete the animal trio. Get Bling Baby out of here and add Iwasuke. And then the obvious picks. We got Flashback Ban. How do I say that? Perkilo. I probably said that wrong. The Mario Tourist or Kira's co-worker. I mean, guys, look at this roster. Who remembers great characters such as Mario Tourist? And we also got Haruno. They could port him from Eyes of Heaven. What? Who modded him into the game? Which one of you did that? Here we go. We got Chicolato plus Seko. That would have been cool. Mikitaka and Toru. Jobin, Abakio, Hazamada, and oh, okay, Hazamada for DIU. Okay, that'd be interesting. I don't really care for him, but and then Jobin or Toru with Wonder of You for being projectile. Yeah. Kosaku Harajiri before Kira takes his place, and he'll be the most busted character yet. Damn. Of course, Sarugi. If we got Sarugi on his own, that'd still be pretty cool, to be fair, but I think it would be even cooler if we got him with Jobin. Abakio, Mikitaka, and Toru. Okay, so basically my predictions, which I'd be happy with this. For parts 5, we've already had part 5, so, but kind of sound dumb, but maybe. Yeah, for my part 4, guessing Mikitaka. For part 8, I don't know, Joshua, maybe K. I'd love K. If K got added, I'd be so happy. But we know how K is. We know how K's situation is. She's been given the least amount of, I guess, screen time, manga time, whatever you want to call it. You know, her character had so much potential. If she got added to All-Star Battle, I'd be happy. But it won't happen. K will never get to see the light of day, and that makes me sad because she deserves it. She could have been a great character and should have. But anyway, that's where I'm going to end today's video. It might have been a long one. I seem to have spoke for a lot longer than I thought I would. But hopefully you all enjoyed. I don't know if I'll ever do one of these again. I don't know how many topics I can talk about, but if you guys enjoyed it, you know, like the video, subscribe, and I might do some other content to do with JoJo. I'll come up with something, but yeah, if you guys enjoyed it, you know, do like the video, subscribe like I just said. I'm not begging you guys, that's just what every YouTuber says, you know. But yeah, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Hopefully, we can come back to this video and be right. Maybe I'll do a video about that. Maybe I'll do a video about reacting to the new characters and seeing how many we got right. But yeah. Anyway, catch you guys later.